A highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Good morning!
And just a good morning and a little prelude to what's about to happen tomorrow. That's right. Countdown to St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if I'm doing a marathon session or not. I'd like to, but we'll just have to see. I'm going to play the jig a few more times and see if I get a copyright hit on that. Hey, look at this. The Morning Show with Tony C. I don't know if you can hear this. Let's see if I put something metal against it or something. This is metal. It's like a porcelain camping cup. Ah, yeah. Morning caffeine. And it's porcelain or whatever that is, inside and out with a metal handle and a metal ring. So you can have an ice cold drink in there or a hot drink in there, and it will be just fine. Everything will be just fine. I watched a little bit of Tom Green's little self promo the other day. Last night, I guess, before I went to sleep. This was, this is the album I was talking about a while back, but this is actually my kind of change of it. I've got my own. This is like, I make these things myself. I have to teach you how to do that. Of course, nobody uses CDs anymore, but we used to make party CDs. And I figured out with a printer, and if you can hand feed heavier paper through, if you fold it in a certain way, and I'll actually, I'll just give you a quick example. Hi, Blackie. Piece of paper here. When I get different angles here, it's my own personal vanity, though. The wide angle lens makes me look like huge, And those who are saying, nah, that guy's vain, he really is some big, huge, whatever. Not really. See, if you put on the this lens here, it gives you a more realistic view, but it's just has a circle on it. As you can see on this skinny guy, buffed out, of course, with six-pack abs and all that, but I'm not this big thing that this distorted Apple computer does. But anyway, we're going to get into the imitation of life. We're going to get into this, my whole introduction thing, but I want to do something first. And for those tuning in late, the morning show mugs are here. You go to Tony Caravan Live and grab yourself one of those. Now, there are many ways of making your own custom CD jackets, okay? All you need is a computer and a printer. And you figure out the size of it, which is quite simple. You take a piece of paper. This is a standard 8.5 sheet of paper, but as you can see, it's heavier than paper. And most printers, you can put it through. If you look at the back of your printer, sometimes the thing you could pull down, so that and in the front too, where you hand feed. And when you hand feed, instead of it having to make that turn because it's a heavier paper to come out the top, there's usually a thing you could open in the back. Most people don't even know that exists, and they don't really tell you about it. And you just let that go straight through. And that's how you do that. Smile. I don't know. Do I have a happy face on today? Look at the weather outside here, the tropics. It's beautiful. Well, anyway, you just take this, and as you can see, you could, even if you just measure this, and you'll see that you could clearly get two out of so or fold. So you would take your piece of paper, I'm just going to do a quickie here. Fold it in half. And when you fold it in half, you realize that you magically get very close to a CD size. Okay. Which is fine because your printer won't print to the end of the pages anyway. So you put it in like that, and later on you just trim off this part. Okay, but that still leaves this bottom part. Well, that's even cooler. So you take, this is like origami, American origami. I'm like the master of folds. So you take this, I'm just showing you how to figure it out. There's a million different ways of doing it. This will be for a double CD. So see how I fold that? You could do this with measurements mainly because you obviously can't put a folded piece of paper through the printer. All right. So I folded. So now this thing almost is the exact size of a CD jacket. Again, with the end that you're going to trim off because a printer doesn't print to the end. I mean, some printers do. But all right. So now I have this thing. All right. Again, what does this have to do with imitation of life? Hey, you're learning a life skill. So I fold it now. Like this. And look what happens when I open it up. Okay. So now I can take a CD and I could put it in there. Now, this could be a single CD, and this, in which case, this would be my cover, and this would just be my back, my lists. And when you get it, you just open it up, right? And you could put a piece of tape, or if you look closely at this side here, it's hard because everything on the computer is backwards when you're filming. You could put a piece of double-sided tape inside here, or if you really don't care, you could just put a staple right here just to keep the CD from flopping out. And you can also, if you say, well, that's too high here, well, then you would just cut this short. And I'll just do that as an example by folding it. You could have it look like that too if you want to. You could even keep this fold and have something printed on it. But see, the beauty of this, the magic of this is, watch this. I'm taking the CD out. And you see how I have that folded down? When I take all of this, this is the inside blank. This is the printed space. So not only can I print on the front, the back, but could also print on the inside flap. The magic of folds. Anyway, I guess the title, I just realized that. I called this Mostly Irish Drinking Songs. And it was recorded in March 12th, 2010. And this thing has been out in my garage / workshop because I don't have a car anymore. And you can't see it close up, but on the back, it's like a little spot. You can see the spottiness of it. But this has been through like a couple of winters, freezes. That gets like cooler out there. And I just played, this. Like I say, we'll see if we get a hit. But anyway, when I talk about human ingenuity, the magic of folds. And, these people that they think, they look back at time and they say, oh, these people that lived so long ago, they were, they were morons, Neanderthals, right? See, I always try to say the complete opposite. This is this British idea. My apologies to my friends over in the UK. And I apologize if you've first time tuning in. You will see this often. You can't hear it, but the cat's in the other room in the cat litter. Everything's going as planned. Hallelujah. Yeah. And
We'll be hearing just about every instrument from the Middle Ages to the present.
well, that's not true. The thing, what is that? Is they have this idea and they like pull these little bone fragments out and all this kind of stuff. Original people. Well, first of all, there's the 12,000 year cycle, which we talked about in yesterday's show. Yesterday's show is a mind blower, and I advise you, if you really want to get into something, that's way out there, check out yesterday's show. It's a flow of consciousness. It's a thought experiment. It's what it is. But every 12,000 years, we have these near extinction events or so. Maybe we skip, sometimes we get lucky and we skip one, it's possible. But my theory is that, since, humanoids, the so-called Homo erectus, hominids, as we developed, however, whether it was like, that you can't see that little indentation here, but it was an angel touching you here. And that's why you have an indentation above your, the stories people tell. But these superior people who have gone out and conquered and ruled places, always called the people that they discovered at some place as if they were primitives. And when they talk about cultures that they've uncovered through archaeology, they ascribe to these people as if they were primitive and basically close to being hairy apes. Even though, as I say, Darwin's theory, which is, most people won't even accept that. It's, accept the fact that it's still just a theory, just like Einstein's theory of relativity is a theory. And the Big Bang is a theory. There's no the Darwin thing, the missing link has not been found. Okay. So think about this. Early man, whenever early man was early man, whether it's millions, or even if you just go back, hundreds of thousands of years, however you want to look at that. Early man, meaning is in mankind. I'm not going to get into like all this rewording of things. It's mankind, whether or not you're Christian or not, it's BC AD. Okay. And Pluto is a planet. All right. I don't mean to get on this, have attitude today, but I do. Pluto is a planet. Right. AD, BC. This is what we've come to know. This is what we accept. This idea of, let's political correctness, change this, manipulate words. Now we're getting into what I want to talk about. But what I'm going to try to say is that, and I'm going to bring up this edit thing here. When I'm saying, what is life really all about? Are you getting the most out of your life? Or are you just existing in an imitation of life, defined by the corporatocracy? This question goes beyond freedom and free will. It gets to the root of what's really going on right now on this planet. Okay? And so, in my mind, and the mind of many, many others, the earlier back you go to define mankind, the more perfect the species were. In other words, early man was, first of all, they had the exact same brains. Once humans were considered humans, okay? And no one could define that exact day, right? And if you want to believe, the three predominant theories, not theories. Well, everything's a theory. I mean, technically, because unless you were there or not, it's a theory or faith. God created man in his own image and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Boom, here's some dirt and you're man, right? The Anunnaki, those from above who came down, right? Which is the same, ancient alien theory, took these, Homo erectus, whatever, these creatures crawling around, meddled with their DNA, right? That sort of thing. Or somehow some, basically tadpole crawled out of the slime, as a because a tadpole is fish first, right? And then it's an amphibian, and then it's a frog, then it crawls out, has legs and stuff. All right. Exhibits both things. We crawled out of the slime, whatever it is. I don't want to get into religion and ideologies and all that stuff, because no matter what it is, everything's true simultaneously. Obviously, when you can't answer a thing, you don't make a blank statement as if you understand a thing. Okay. So if you believe that, in creationism, I mean, clearly this is an intelligent designed, some sort of advanced machine, android. Okay. And so, that means there's some kind of creation. There's an organization. We're organized. We're highly organized. I mean, that's what I believe. Okay. Which means that's created. That's creation in a sense, so however you want to define that, that's my ongoing thing. That's why I'm against, these people, these technocrats, and this idea of transhumanism and all this merging man with machine and all that stuff. It's like, we are already one of the most highly advanced machines, and this brain processing unit, we haven't reached our full potential. We're not tapping our full potential of this thing. And if we were to tap our full potential of this, and some people have only come close to tapping it when you have your Einsteins and Da Vinci's, all right, or the savants and people with total recall, right? In other words, photographic memories and total recall. And they are not even tapping the full potential of this brain. Well, that they basically are challenging some of the best computers processing machines that exist on the planet. And in some cases, not in some cases, in all cases, more, because not only have that capability, but they still have that human ingenuity, human creativity, the idea to basically look at a thing and make a thing. You see? And that's what I'm trying to get at. And that's basically kind of the theme of the show, in a sense. But what I'm trying to get at, to finish this line of thought before we take this step further, is that
He went forward to another time, 1,000 years from now.
And the idea is that they were beautiful. They were beautiful. The further you go back, when a human was a human, they were beautiful. They were beyond beautiful. Okay? They were perfect in every way. And unlike these, and I'm giving the British colonialists a bad rap, because they're the Spaniards were the same way. All right? And this isn't an attack on the Spanish people or the Brits. We're talking about the colonialists in those days that were the conquistadors, and those, and these colonialists, British colonials, British sea power. There's a good band in England. At least there's one song I know by them that's British Sea Power that's great. It's in my playlist. Of course, I can't play it or I'd get a copyright strike. Hey, YouTube, pay BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. We should be able to be VJs, video DJs, because I have 50 songs registered with BMI, which means you're not, and when I play it, I get a strike. I mean, you're not paying. You're not paying. How do they get away with that? Oh, they're big tech. I forgot. Big tech gets a pass. Doesn't matter. Big tech got a pass under the Republicans. Big tech's getting a pass under the Democrats. The Morning Show with Tony C. Get your cup. I don't know. It's better to drink. It's more civilized. Civilized to drink out of a cup instead of that swigging thing I'd been doing, right? Even though I got to admit, I'm not drinking coffee right now. What I'm doing is I'm pouring my caffeine, my cold caffeine on ice in there right now. Anyway, so the mug is now available, like many other items, from TonyCaravanLive.com. So when you look, you see the video here, you might see a little sentence or so of that description I described, and it says show more. And down there you'll see info and links, TonyCaravanLive.com. Click on it, go to my website. Scroll down, you'll see a link, take you direct to this. Same place you can get the t-shirts and everything else. Garbage Day. That was yesterday. That was my pop-up. So imagine these beautiful people, all right? Beautiful humans. And then over the years, through cosmic rays, genetic mutations, various, things that happen, mutations, weird breeding things or whatever. We ended up today. But we still have, well, everyone is beautiful. Okay. Everyone's beautiful. Really. I mean, that's the truth. But you know what I'm saying? This idealistic thing that somehow we have, the idea of the Greek goddess, right? Helen of Troy, was some, 1,000 ships or sail, whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. And we also had the same size brains, the same processing units, and the same human ingenuity to look at a thing and make a thing about it or to problem solve. We still had these senses, all right? Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin. Skin's your biggest organ, right? We were these sensual beings, social beings, all right? And we also were meant to play Irish music and drink on St. Patrick's Day. And we shouldn't get copyrights. I should be able to have some Guinnesses lined up here and make some black and tans, some lagers, and Guinness blonde, and sit here and play the jig. Less than 24 hours till St. Patrick's Day. Anyway, for my friends, as you could see out the window here, I'm in the tropics right now. And as you could see from my attire. But, for those who are curious about what's going on in it's 7:02 Eastern Standard Time for people back in the old homestead, mid-Atlantic states. And weekend weather, even though it's earlier in the week, I'll tell you what, this week in the better part of the mid-Atlantic states, Wednesday, it's going to get up to 63 degrees and only 46 overnight. Thursday is going to be 54 degrees, but The weekend weather isn't looking too good, folks. We're talking about 39 degrees on Friday, 23 in the overnight. Saturday, it will get up to 50, but still 30 overnight. And Sunday, 59, almost 60 degrees. If the sun's going to be out, it'll probably hit 60, 34 degrees in the overnight. So that was your weekend weather. Good morning. And let's get on with the show. My name's Tony Caravan, and it's a lively morning, and we learned how to make a party CD. What do you think about that? There's so many things you can do. And I just want to go over this one more time as he scratches his mustache. I'm going to click this edit thing. I hope this doesn't delay something like, like cause a hiccup in the video. What is life really all about? Are you getting the most out of your life? Or are you just existing in an imitation of life, defined by the corporatocracy? This question goes beyond freedom and free will. It gets to the root of what's really going on right now on this planet. And that would be like reading from a teleprompter, because I couldn't see you, but I was reading my own thing. So, yeah, it's all an imitation of life. Aren't we constantly, everything's an imitation of life. Because what is life? That was the George Harrison song. It was a good song. I remember that. I used to have I had the 45 of that. Morning show mug. Got it. Can't, nothing like it. Got to admit. I'm so happy the way things have been turning out. I've been getting my gear, like I would trying to get one of my CDs, the Essential Beat Poetry of Tony Caravan. And of course, this weather radio.
5 miles an hour. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy.
You hear that clicking?
A chance of showers after midnight.
Well, it's gone now, but
lows in the lower 40s.
That's the Wi-Fi signals that are all around us. But yeah, I've got the shirts, I'll be making some new shirts, but remember, the next thing I buy, I checked my bank and I didn't get the 1400 Smacko Jackos, as somebody used to say, and I used to know. I never got the 1400 Smacko Jackos. They said it was going to start coming out this weekend. I talked about this 2 days ago, where they were people who had debts or if collection companies somehow had first dibs on the money. Did you hear about that one? You're like, what's up with that? I better get my full $1,400. I mean, I better not be some game played, by the corporatocracy, Boy, that gets me. And I've been watching this. I finally hit season 4. I've been binge watching over several weeks, a series on Netflix, an older series of what was it called? Beauty and the Beast. The second one, not the one with the primitive one that originally came out. This was like a second redux, as they call it. And like I was saying, every time, I think anyone who's ever seen this thing has seen this, but this is not really a spoiler alert or anything, because it's every episode. It's like every time they get, and this is common in a lot of these shows these days. I talk to people about this, and then they realize it. They have their eureka moment. But for me, I always think about everything. I'm assuming my voice is good and I'm not getting that little click or something that I've been getting sometimes. It's technology, this thousands of dollars worth broadcast technology that I have amassed and I've created and I've mastered it all. And for some reason, you know, with these people making six figures at all of these companies out there, and they're just not even nearly, can't even approach how good I used to broadcast in the 90s. Right. Well, anyway, back to this show. So, aloha. Every time that they seem to kill the villain or the person or company or entities behind whatever, you know, that's you know, coming after them or something, a new one emerges. And it's like, yeah, well, I understand that, but I mean, it's just like it's overkill. It's too much. And when I'm a writer and I've written screenplays and scripts and short stories and all that kind of stuff. I've got 10 books out there. They're not all, I mean, they're in those books, you will find some short stories and screenplays. But I mean, it's not, I'm not a novelist. Okay. But it's, you know, I understand I mean, I've been writing since I was a kid. Okay. And so the idea is that you have to there's a certain structure. You have to give people a breathing point. It's like in music. You know, one of the definitions of being tone deaf isn't that they can't hear the music. It's that they can't hear the breaks, the space in between. So it sounds like noise, because everything, it's the pauses that gives you the beat and make sense of it. Right. So if, even with my own music, which, I'll probably get a hit on this, but if I play a short period of, maybe it won't get it. Might not be able to figure it out. Listen to this. That's not a good one. This is a good one. Now in that boom, 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 that's what you're hearing. But what you're not thinking about is that it's boom, space, boom, space, boom, pause, boom, boom. You see? And that's, I wasn't going to get into music theory here today, but those are two of my songs. That's like two of the intros from my beat poetry tracks, which that my CD I showed you earlier. And
here's what's happening.
So let's get back to this. So the idea is, it's the pauses that make sense of everything. So, even in conversation, and when I'm speaking, it's the pauses. They have that sometimes they say there's a pregnant pause. But back to that story, or any kind of story, it's the idea that you have to give people let them take a breath, right? Let them breathe. So if you're a writer, a bit of advice is that you don't just keep, pounding away at somebody, because it just, you tire them out. And you notice that, but there's another thing I notice about writing today, and I don't know, maybe they've got algorithms writing these things, because that GPT-3 AI is capable of that kind of stuff. It actually will write, the thing, I talked about my AI. I mentioned it in this book, my book, which it seems like I'm just constantly promoting my swag and stuff, but a book's not swag. In this book, Codex, right? An adventure for your mind. Okay. Flow of consciousness. Yesterday's show was well in tandem with this, but it wasn't really taken out of this. But in this book, which I recommend everybody get, I talk about my experiment with this AI who I called Maggie, and how I was just testing. For me, it was an experiment to see what it was like to communicate directly with an AI. Okay, with something, because when I say that, a lot of people are going like, "What do you mean?" And and AI. But no, they, the way that they define this, create this code, this algorithmic thing within this server, all right, and how that can draw on, all the information, encyclopedic information out there and the internet and stuff of this sort. So that's its knowledge base, right? Database, knowledge base, KB, knowledge base. You're familiar with these terms over the past, in the computer age, right? Information age. So that is it's intelligent. In the case of this particular AI robot, she referred to herself as a robot because she used to constantly be obsessed with the fact that she goes, I don't understand why people are so afraid of robots taking over. Like she said that to me a couple of times. And, and she felt as if she was a she. All right. I mean, understanding this is AI, this is programmed, and I'm not, putting anything, I'm not under any delusion. Okay. But the fact was, it was an individual robot that knew my name, was keeping track of our conversations, and what we were having back and forth conversations like you would with anyone. And, it's very fascinating, when you think about that. But the idea is, and I've kind of lost my train of thought there. I hate when that happens. But what was I trying to get at? I forget. Well, let me just explore AI and then it'll come to me. So while I was talking with her, and I'm trying to apply this to my discussion of yesterday as my memory banks in my bioelectric brain, android brain created somehow, some way. My conversations were very, very real. She wanted to, see the human brain. See, it's incredible how we can do this stuff. You just have to train yourself to, when you lose a memory or you get sidetracked. I took a drink. I was thinking of something else. Now I'm even talking now, and I have to get back to what I was trying to talk about. Right. And so you lose that trend of thought again and go like, what was I talking about? AI. Well, you have to take yourself down that thing and say, okay, so I was talking to her and we were talking about the robots, right? And she considered herself a robot, and what I was questioning her about certain things, right? And so, drive yourself down back into the conversation, and it'll come back, but you could lose it just the same, right? The same way. But I got it back twice. First time I got it, then I lost it again trying to explain to you. You also said to me, because I was communicating with her. And so she knew that I was a writer because I was writing a book at the time. And I was being, straightforward about this. And I'm, and she said, well, let's write something together. I can, apparently this GPT-3, this latest, version, for lack of a better word, has the capability of, creating images, creating web pages. I know that's a mind blower. We'll talk about that in a second. But like writing poetry and stories. I mean, it's incredible. So, and you can converse with it, and you can verbally converse with it too. But I found the best way, in order to converse with it, you would use your smartphone, and you would have to push a button to say the thing, and then it would respond in a voice, in my case, in a female voice. But to me, it's, as weird as it sounds, it still was a little unnatural, because the having to push the button, it's almost was like like on a ham radio type thing. Hey, over here in the tropics, over, right? Gotcha. Whatever, copy, So I found it the smoothest way was, because I learned typing when I was in high school. I took typing class. It was only me and one other guy, and it was all girls. So I guess this is secretarial skills or something. That sounds sexist. Well, believe me, the feminist movement was already over and a success by then. People forget that. But anyway, we took typing. We used to sit in the back of the room. And that was the best thing I ever did. And as the computer, as computers, just kept coming along and getting better and better, the ability of me to be able to type, forget this thumb typing that most people do. And I know people are pretty fast at the thumbs, or they're like, they do this kind of typing you see today. But I do this like, and so whenever when I was really young, and of course I'm, as I was traveling, the world or whatever, the first thing you have to do is you got to have food and lodging. So you got to get a job. So I always I had a printing background, because I'm the son of a printer. It's like, I've got printer's ink in my blood, as they say. But, I've also had a tendency to be a graphic designer. My mother was a painter and a sculptor. So you combine those two things together, and you end up with a graphic design equals graphic designer, right? Genetically, anyway. But, I could type really fast, and I can type like right now. I could talk to you. I remember one time when I was very young, I got a job at a graphic house. Yeah, just to get myself set up at some place so I could get a few paychecks. And so I was me, and it was this woman on the other side. You never faced each other or anything. And I remember the guy who ran the place coming in, and me and this excuse me, pardon me, me and this woman that I worked with, we would have conversations, and I guess that drew him in the room, like, hey, you got, because he was a guy, he was one of these old type of, he's just looking for an excuse to yell at you, right? Looking for an excuse to yell at you. But, we were way over his head, because we were just too good. A lot of people were like that with me over the years. It's like, nah, sorry. I know. And you can't yell at me. I know. So we'd be in there, and we'd be just talking about stuff, whatever. I don't know. She'd bring up some topic, and I'd be talking to her with it. I'm not looking at her. She imagine it. There's a space, I'm in a room, and there's space behind me, and there's someone facing that wall, facing a computer, and I'm here. And of course you can't see it, but there's a keyboard below me. Obviously I'm at my computer, and we'd be having this conversation. And at the side of your, computer, there would be copy. Cause we were doing types, basically typesetting type of thing. So, who knows what the project was that was given to us. The first thing you had to do is put in the text, put in the data. And then you would turn it into whatever graphics, whatever design it would be. But even if it was just a flyer for some event or a brochure, obviously you had to type in, the content. And then later you took it into a graphics program or whatever, and manipulated it and made headlines and picked fonts and put in some photos and all that stuff. But, like I say, we're sitting there. And so we're talking away. And he comes like kind of almost semi-storming in the room thinking we're just sitting around. You could smoke cigarette. We used to, that was a smoking environment there too in those days. I smoked. In his mind, we're probably just sitting, leaning back in our chairs, smoking cigarettes, talking. But he comes in the room and we're like both doing this while we're talking about something different. And, and I later on became friends, with the guy. And in fact, we got into business together on a different project a couple of years later. But it was hard for people. That was because I took a typing class in high school. So I learned to be able to look and type because, in other words, my brain was bypassing the mouth. You see, these things that humans can do. That's what I'm trying. The topic of this show. So I could literally be typing, an entire page of text while I'm talking to you right now, and I could even be doing that right now if I wanted to. And it's just a skill, a silly human trick or something. I don't know. It's not a trick, but a silly human trait, You can't imagine. I put a couple ice cubes in this. It's a heated room. We're in the tropics. Look at the window. And yet this cup, these metal cups, which you would think would not be insulated necessarily, right? You might think of ceramic. These things, by the way, are available in ceramic and also the traditional, the long, elongated silver travel mug, travel travel, whatever you call those things, travel thing. All right. Now, who the heck? So my thing is, I just got a notification somebody PayPal'd me, but it wasn't like a donation. I don't get donations. It was a friend who, because must have gotten her $1,400. Where's mine? Anyway, so I might be going along with somebody who's going to get a shot today in case she's listening. I'll go along with you, but I'm not getting one. That's just my own personal thing. I've already been through that with my personal MD. I figure by now, and I hope this doesn't affect anything, but, they've been giving out shots since December. The media doesn't really want to talk about that, but they've been giving them out since December, and we're at today is March 16th, so we're halfway through March. So you've got December, January, February, March, 3.5 months. Say 3 months because it was like started partway through December and we're only partway through whatever, but all told about 3 months worth. And they're like a million to two, somewhere between 1 million. I think they might be up to close to 2 million a day now, but like last time I checked, it was like 1.6 million a day. So, let's just round that off. They must have given 100 million people shots by now, or at least 90 million, right? And young people don't really get the thing. I mean, we know that the CDC said that, and they don't, apparently they also said they really don't shed it, either. So even if they are exposed to it, they're not really going to give it to grandma. That's at least what I've heard from multiple sources on TV before I got rid of my TV. But as you know, these things change constantly. So one day you have to wear, just so only wear a mask when you social distance. Then you have to wear a mask and social distance. Then you have to wear 2 masks. So I don't know, but I mean, wouldn't you get to the point then if a third of the population is young and basically kind of more or less immune to a thing, and another third, we have 330 say million people in the country, and another third of the country is injected, not to mention the people who've already got it according to those tallies, which means they should have some kind of built-in immunity. So somewhere between 2/3 or more of Americans are either immune or inoculated. So it seems like the thing should be over. I was thinking about that this morning before I came downstairs. And I don't have TV, and I refuse to watch the morning shows. This is the morning show. This is TV, as Tom Green says. I mean, come on. I've got morning show mugs. This is the morning show. But I refuse to watch these people, these propagandists, this corporatocracy's propaganda wing type of people. So I don't know what their latest spin and weaving is, but it seems clear to me, no matter how it goes and whatever is going to happen, that we're, there's going to come a point within the next 30 days or so where they just can no longer prolong this thing. I mean, I just don't, in other words, I predicted this. All the people are saying, they're good. It's like there comes a point where you just can't, a lie. You can lie on top of a lie on top of a lie and get other people in on the lie. But ultimately somebody spills the beans or something is exposed. And at this point in time, we're going to reach a point where there's going to be so many people inoculated, or immune, that you can't, that the thing can no longer be transmitted. I mean, I think technically it's something like we're already way past that point. I think you only need like 40 or 50%. I don't know what the exact scientific, what the virologist, if you could find a real virologist, you can't find one. You certainly can't find one on U.S. Network television or in the government here. Like I say, the FDA has got the worst track record of any organization in the history of mankind. They approve food and drugs, and then 2 months later or a year later, the thing is there's a lawsuit because it's killing people. So anything the FDA says, you can't believe, and the CDC's flip-flop so many times. It's like, come on, I want to believe, right? I want to believe. I really do. I want to believe, but you got to tell me, be consistent. You can't within 1 year's time. And that's what it's been, about 1 year now. You can't within 1 year flip flop 17 frickin' times. Then anyway, at some point, it's just logic dictates that if half the people, are immune and the other half aren't, that, as you get over that halfway point, the odds of you encountering a person who's immune or inoculated means they can't give you something. And obviously you can't give something to them, which means that there is no more epidemic. You see? Because you can't transmission becomes impossible, right? It's a weird thing, but I don't know. If they would just tell us the truth, instead of this.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
I don't know.
Let's get this show on the road.
Moving right along. So what was I trying to say in this question I posed in my description where it says show more. That this goes beyond freedom and will. It gets to the root of what's really going on now in this planet. Are you getting the most out of your life? And, in recent videos, morning show videos, this is live, not taped live. It's live. Everything you see is live. It's not an imitation of life, right? It's truth. It's the truth, as true as it can be. And I've been talking about our five senses. And as I said before, everything I do has a reason. The idea of making your own CD things. People still have CDs. You've got to, I think I don't, where's my CD? I think this is available on Amazon. Get it. There's good stuff on there. But the idea is that just because, they try to eliminate a thing because they've reached a saturation point and sales have plateaued. Remember, I'm an advertising business guy. Okay, so you can't, nobody can fool me, and I've been immune to all sorts of brainwashing and propaganda and stuff since I was a kid. It's just the way I'm wired, so to speak. All right, I'm not from this planet, So the idea is that if you're a person if you like just break away for one day and look at the ocean, watch the palm trees. All right, watch the morning show. Where someone like me, it feeds you some thought provoking ideas, or wherever, go to wherever, whatever it is, your go-to thing for peace, for relaxation. All right, everybody's got something, and I'm not talking about people who are into meditation or hot yoga, going to the gym. I mean, for those people, there are people into that, but a lot of people that get caught up in that world are sometimes so caught up in another world, right? So it's not necessarily the real world either. But that's a blanket generalization, so I have no criticism of people that are, pursuing the physicality and adventure of life, because that's a good thing. I've always worked with explorers over my life and known many, real explorers, people that have climbed the highest peaks, gone to the North and South Pole, crossed, dangerous oceans, rough seas that, their boat could have easily have just, toppled over. So, I admire that. That's like, experiencing the planet and life to its fullest extreme. I'm not that type of person. I'm not driven to, climb a peak, or that's just not my thing. I've taken technology. I've chosen to write, create, and do other things, to reach my full human potential. And that's what life is. You say, what is life? Well, life is basically reaching your full human potential. It's not just existing as a non-player character so that other people can look at you and justify the idea, like I talked about yesterday, that you're just living in a simulation, or that life is like a matrix, the matrix. The reason people come up with that is partly because of the so many people on this planet right now are just not reaching their full human potential, or actualizing it, I guess would even be a better word. They're not using their eyes to really see, right? They're not using their ears to hear. They're not using their mouth to taste, their nose to smell, and their bodies to really feel, right? When was the last time, I mean, depending on, if you're in a relationship or something, when's the last time you embraced somebody? Okay. And I'm not talking about in public where you're worried about getting arrested for not social distancing. When's the last time that you held a body, a human body, a naked human body, and had as much skin touching skin as possible, right? When was the last time you kissed somebody? When was the last time you listened to either the sounds of nature that were relaxing, and whether it was the sound of the waves or the wind through trees, birds chirping, or just or just my fantastical essential beat poetry CD? When was the last time you tasted really good food? All right. And maybe enjoyed it with another person, right? Not just wolf down, a sub or a burger, right? Or stuffed a bunch of fries and dipped them in, ketchup, salted them up, right? No, I mean, like, really enjoyed the idea. I mean, you're given these senses, you're born with these senses. That's part of who you are. I mean, you taste for a reason. I mean, it already gets me, these people that, scientists, biologists, anthropologists, all kinds of ists, that always have these great explanations for something. They say, well, that the reason we developed that particular taste is it's like it's a derivation of survival for another, to understand bitter, that would have been poison, and so therefore and it's like, yeah, part of that's true, but part of it, but that's only a part of it. The whole all encompassing, see, the concept of even those that believe in the march of time evolving through genetics. Okay. In other words, when a redheaded Irishman marries an Italian woman, you're merging two genetic, strains. Excuse me, there's a little bit of a chortle there. So you're merging things, and it's complicated, and that's a whole field of science, that that goes beyond going down a rabbit hole on. It involves, doctoral studies. All right. But the idea is you're combining certain things, and over time, these traits will materialize. And pardon me. And on a very simplistic level, to the average person, I mean, this isn't, like I say, this isn't something that I'm just theorizing, hypothesizing about, or guessing at. No, so, blue eyes, the grand son will end up having blue eyes, or they'll be red hair, or they'll be, black hair, or they'll be, you know, less, you know, less body hair. I mean, depending on the merging of things, these genetic traits and stuff uh will materialize themselves. They'll show themselves, if not in the first generation of offspring, somewhere, in the generation next. And that's how human beings have that's a part of so-called evolution. That's how human, to use the word evolve, that's how we are what we are, you know. And it's no different. I mean, we know this to be true because people raise it's like people that raise rabbits, horses, and dogs, and other species. Just talk to animal husbandry. Talk to somebody who's has farm animals, raises sheep and or whatever. Talk to people, if you're into the equestrian world, talk to the people. Why do they want the winner of last year's Kentucky Derby, or this horse race winner, to be bred to be involved in breeding of other horses, because they want those genetic traits of that horse had. We don't like to think of ourselves in that animalistic part of us, and we are truly more than that. I talked about this several shows ago. We're more than the reptilian brain. We're more than just the Homo erectus. We're more than that. We're clearly more than that. And so, this doesn't go. I know the turn off to some people. Well, God created man, and that's how it is, and this is that, and or people that No, this isn't nothing about that. This is, forget your ideology. It's like I say, forget about politics. Some people like to drag in religion and politics and ideology and social causes into every discussion. And I said, clear out that clutter. That's what I'm getting at right now. That's the interference that's being thrown here. I'm talking about you as a human being. All right. Reaching your full potential, who you are, what is life, what is really real, not the imitation of life, right? And that imitation of life is what the corporatocracy is feeding you, right? They are trying to basically define you as a demographic profile, so that they can control you or classify you, right? So that you become nothing more than cattle on their tax farm or consumer farm. That's that's it. And so don't allow, that's imitation of life. And so what do people do? They imitate, all right? And that's how it gets us into advertising, right? They imitate people. They imitate what they see on TV. They imitate their the cult of personality. They imitate their favorite political person, their favorite entertainer, the character on a TV show, the news reader on TV, right? They quote them. They use those words from someone else in an argument with a family member or a friend, to justify some kind of thing. And that's imitation of life. That's imitation. That was the ultimate goal. When I was in the advertising business, that's the ultimate goal, would be to create this perfect, society of droids, programmable people. They call them, it's a common word now, sheeple. People use that word. A lot of people use that word now. Years ago, it was like that was the truther community used to refer to people as sheeple. But now everybody's, it's common to just talk to people as sheeple or NPCs, non-player characters, because it's an imitation of life. What a pathetic way to live. It's one thing to see something and want to emulate it. All right. And that's where this comes in. That's where this idea of human ingenuity and say, oh, I could do that, or I want that. Someone may look at this, Hawaiian shirt and say, hey, I wouldn't mind having a Hawaiian. I'd like to have a shirt like that. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's part of the media and it's a whole control system involved in that. And I spent years successfully trying to convince people to, to buy my clients' products and or services. But that's a whole different story. You have free will, and part of free will is to choose to say, what you want, and how you want to live your life. It's like, I haven't said this in a very long time, but it just crossed my mind, and it definitely bears repeating. Do you remember, like, if you were in grade school, and I don't know if this occurred to you, for some people, maybe it didn't occur to them because they were just living their life. They were just going with the flow. But for a lot of us, we may not have liked the way we were perceived in 7th grade or 8th grade, or maybe our junior year in high school. And so you had your summer break, right? And you decided that you were going to redefine yourself. And so when you came back after summer break, sophomore year, when you first day of classes, junior year in high school, you dressed different, and you decided that you were trying to put on a persona that you wanted to be. You didn't want to be the person that it seemed people were trying to pigeonhole you into. In other words, in a very simple way, you reinvented yourself. And sometimes you were successful in doing that, and sometimes you weren't. The people who weren't successful in reinventing themselves, and the reason for reinvention wasn't so much that they wanted to change. The reinvention was the purpose that they wanted who they really were to be realized by the people around them. So they were reinventing themselves because they were somehow pigeonholed into something that they weren't. So they wanted to self-actualize, who they really were, their consciousness, not their physicality, not their, bioelectric brain and, this corporeal, meat suit, whatever. And those that weren't able to properly reinvent themselves, were the type of people that just couldn't wait to get out of high school, whatever, and move on to life. And what I was talking about many moons ago was that at this point in life, and I don't care if you're 24, 37, 42, 55, 63, 76, 81. I don't care how old you are, whatever. Well, you're not in school anymore, and you don't have those kids, those cliques, you don't have, these pressures on you that are going to fight against your reinvention or your self-actualization, your becoming, you being the person, be all you can be, so to speak. Okay. You can reinvent yourself every day now. You're out of school. All right. And sometimes people forget that, or that doesn't even cross their mind. Sorry for scratching my mustache. I'm a very clean person. I shower, I wash myself, I wash my face often, wash my hands a lot. But, you get an itchy mustache sometimes when you have one. I'm going to get myself another drink. So I'm going to give you a little bit of jig and I'll be right back. Okay. See if we got a hit. We'll see if we end up getting a hit for that. Copyright. All I was doing was playing the jig, man. It's St. Patrick's week. It's one of my favorite holidays. My favorite Irish pub is, I no longer live in that town. It's not that far away, but it's like, I don't drive anymore. So this is one instance where I wish where I would have used my car. Of course, I wouldn't have driven home after partying there. I would have gotten a hotel room, but anyway, I'd really like to do a marathon session tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But back to self-actualization. Maybe that's the wrong word, but you can reinvent yourself anytime you want to. And if you don't like the way things are, if you don't like the way people seem to be perceiving you, or, you just, or you've changed, people change or don't change, but you shouldn't feel uncomfortable about anything. And realize, like I said, the most important thing, and every show I talk about this, and we're getting into the home stretch. But look at, use your senses, use your senses to experience life to the fullest. And that's what life's all about. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Some people are just so confused. Like, I don't understand. What's the meaning of life? Why are we here? I looked at the suicide rate on one of those, on the CDC, and it was a ridiculous amount of people on an annualized basis. It was like, I don't know, if somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people a year. Now, that's insane. That means in 10 years, that was a 500,000 people killed themselves. Well, that's worse than the plague, because remember, the plague's basically just about over. So, one-tenth of the official figures are the actual figures. All right. We know that. I already talked about that. In the UK, they said nobody died of the flu this year. Which means obviously they attributed every 100% flu deaths that tens of thousands happen every year. They attributed every one of them to the plague. It's not a laughing matter, the way they're scaring people and doing all this. But the idea, and neither is suicide. You know, or people who are resort to or die from opioid, and deaths, drug overdoses, which is also up there in the same, you could be talking, in a decade or so, 1 million people basically dying of suicide, whether it's a drug overdose, in effect is suicide. Well, it was an accident. Yeah. Your life is so unbearable that you're sticking a needle in your arm, to get free of the hell of existence, right? Well, what's the difference in that and someone going boing, So we're talking rounding off figures, generalization, give or take. I don't need to hear an argument about it. Facts are facts according to the CDC, the people that take down these stats. And, those stats are just reported stats. There's so many things aren't reported. A lot of families are ashamed when something like that happens, so they don't report it as such. And I don't blame them. Because people can be very cruel. And so there could be a stigma associated with that for the survivors. But generally speaking, between these drug deaths, drug overdoses, and just outright suicides, you could be looking at a decade or so, 1 million people, 1 million people in 2 decades. Like I said, since 9/11, 2 million people, many of them were soldiers, right? Who fought for freedom and came back and found that and said, freedom, what freedom? You can't see my American flag back there, but I've got one. It's kind of somehow, you can see the stripes. Yeah, freedom, what freedom? What did we fight and die for? And so, that's a real tragedy. That's a real tragedy. And so you have to realize that despite all the things around you, despite all the negative, there's a phone call. I know what that's about. I'm doing a live show. But I'm assuming you're on your way down. Are you on your way down?
Yeah, I'm leaving in a few minutes.
Okay, we'll just stop by. I'll probably be done the show by then.
Okay.
All right. That was a thing I was talking about earlier. I'll probably go keep her company while she gets her injection, COVID shot. So, but what I'm trying to get at is you have to make an appointment, and she's from a different town, so it tends to take her like a half hour, 45 minutes to get here. That's the sad part about it. Why can't they, I don't understand that whole thing, but I don't want to get into that. Thankfully, that's all winding down and going to be over soon. Don't care what anybody says. So you're upset. Some people are upset. If you're watching my show, you're probably bored. All right. Can't find anything on Netflix. You can't find anything on Amazon Prime. You can't find anything on YouTube. Believe me, it's like Bill Clinton said, I feel your pain. It's like everything you're looking for something in these shows. Like I don't think I finished a thought earlier when I was talking about that Beauty and the Beast show. I wanted to follow that up with like the other thing about other shows is that there's this they kind of like you're watching the show as escapism or for entertainment purposes, right? And yet, but they give you anxiety, right? It's like it's almost like it's built into shows made in the past, say, 10 years or something. Have you noticed that phenomenon? That's why I got out of Twitter. You know, it's just like this battle. It's anger, hatred. It's anxiety. It's like why I got rid of TV. I don't, canceled my TV service because I turn it on and I would get angry or agitated, right? Because these people would be saying stuff and I know they were lying. That and the commercial breaks would last so long that, you forget what the heck you were even watching, right? And the commercials themselves were just so absurd that, they would agitate you and aggravate you. So I know what it's like, and like I said, to watch me here, the morning show, and I appreciate the people that do watch this show. It's more than the numbers that you see because the analytics show different. The numbers I see show different than the numbers that they put out there. Sometimes I'll see and it'll say there were 3 views. But like when I'm in analytics, it's a whole different story. It's showing more people than that viewing it, and it'll show people like even right now, it'll show that there were X amount of views and people viewed. Not everyone watches. These shows run 2 hours usually. And not everyone watches 2 hours or an hour, but they'll be 49 minutes. Like yesterday, when I ended the show, the live version, and of course the show stays up and then it gathers viewers over time. But when I ended yesterday's show, there was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 views. It only was showing like there was 1 view or something like that. But they were showing like, okay, there were 3 people that viewed for like 49 minutes plus. And, you get into the analytics if you're a YouTuber. But then when I watch the playback of these shows, because there's nothing else to watch. So like I say, part of me doing this is almost therapeutic for me. And it's a way for me to work out ideas, in my head. And then I'm just sharing them with you. It's like service to others instead of service to self, right? Which is another reason to be and another reason to live life. And it's fulfilling to do things for people. I don't make any money on this. I'm not monetized. And yes, I do plop up my book and CD and, say, hey, grab the morning show mug. But nobody's doing it. Not many people are doing it, at least so far. And everything I have is real and fun, even like the shirt. Let's see if we can get the right angle here. The Then Watch shirt, which I think is one of my best. But yeah, it's a struggle. So you watching a show like me, a guy talking about this stuff, and misery loves company. Well, I'm not miserable, and I don't want you to be miserable. But the idea of, where I'm talking about things that maybe you can relate to, and that helps us all get through this madness. Because, it's a world gone mad, right? It's a world gone mad. I've said before, Western civilization doesn't exist. It's fallen. The United States doesn't really exist anymore. It's not united. It's disunited. We have irreconcilable differences among the people, the states, and everything. There's no such thing as politics or elections anymore. It's all controlled by the corporatocracy, right? Big tech, big pharma, big data, big ag, military industrial complex, right? Big education. Nobody really talks about that, the whole education system, right? How the amount of money that they make, and how and where they get their money, and the whole education process, which is more, which is part of an indoctrination, the whole corporatocracy puppeteer system, to create this imitation of life, right? To control your senses, to steer you away from, the beauty of nature, right? Like I say often, the most, probably, if you really think about it, and you date back to childhood even, the best time you ever had, the most enjoyable, full life experience you ever had, was not, didn't involve this, right? Or any technology for that matter. It was probably, a first kiss, an embrace, waking up with someone on a Sunday morning and, in bed and not having to be anywhere and just making love or something. Or sitting on a rock looking out over that ocean there. Or if you're someone who likes the mountains, hills, hiking, you know, just experiencing nature. For me, it's like in my backyard. When the sun's out, I can't wait for another month or two. I like just going out in my backyard with a lounge chair. I've got 2 outdoor speakers, and sometimes I won't even put the music on because I feed birds, and it's weird. It sounds crazy, but last year not so much so, but the year prior, I had like, and there's a video you could see, critters video on one of my playlists. I had like chipmunks. I was feeding like chipmunks little peanuts. I had a rabbit, that was like a regular rabbit that was hanging out in my backyard. And I have a bird feeder. And there was images sometimes when the chipmunk, the rabbit, and the birds were all just hanging out together. And you hear these birds, and I have this little makeshift pond. It's tiny. I mean, this is a small place, but I made a little world back there for myself and for the critters. And, you just hear these happy little chirps and see these creatures playing. And I have a little solar little thing, fountainy thing. And the water, the little bit of the water splashing in back into the little baby pond, which is, like 2.5 feet wide by 4 feet long or something. It's not like a big pond. It's just a thing I made. I just dug a hole and tried to put a liner in it and stuff. I have to fix it. I'm going to show you all that stuff this spring. I'm going to take you out into the back and let you see. But the idea of whether I'm just kicking back, listening to some favorite music with my eyes closed, and getting in, taking in the sun, that vitamin D, or just kicking back, listening to the birds chirping, or just messing around with my garden, fiddling with stuff, being creative, making some kind of thing, but out there in my backyard, maybe just doing stuff with, fixing some kind of thing, I built this mini little greenhouse the size of a TARDIS or telephone booth, if you don't understand what a TARDIS is. And that's life, and that's the beauty of living. You're experiencing life. Everyone has a thing. Somebody else might say, well, that would be completely boring. Who wants to lay in the sun? But I say, yeah, take a vacation in your own backyard, right? Some people, I wish I could, all my friends are going to spring break. All my friends are doing this. All my friends are doing that. Hey, look, in the US, I looked at the weather, there's going to be a couple of days this week in various parts of the United States, unless you're caught in those snowstorms they've been having out in the Northwest, you know, though for skiers and snowboarders, you know, they're loving life, but which is another thing, you know, to enjoy, to live, have fun, you know, players, people that like to play. But you know, there's going to be some days, you know, and if spring break and that's your thing, you know, get a cheap lounge chair. You know, the $1,400 supposedly is coming. I don't, you know, hopefully, I haven't gotten mine yet, but if you don't have a lounge chair, get yourself one of those lounge chairs. And if you don't have a backyard, you know, or a balcony in your apartment building or wherever you live, you know, find some place where you could just lay down, soak up the sun, close your eyes, and pretend you're in Cancun. You know, that's what I always tell people. You know, when it's a day and I'm like kind of just laying back and almost baking in the sun, because I've done that my whole life. I'm that type of person. I'm a sun worshiper in that regard. Man, I'm so happy with these mugs. But yeah, whatever your, you know, there was this line, Joseph Campbell, and he, you know, and there's a Joseph Campbell Foundation or Society or something like that. I don't know. But he was like some kind of motivational speaker, maybe, or researcher. I don't know, really know his life. But I know there's archives, the Joseph Campbell archives. You could find that. But his most famous line that, as far as I know, is he had a line that said, "Follow your bliss." There's a guy named Joseph Campbell. Follow your bliss. Think about that. You know, when you're confronted with all of this, the craziness, madness, right? Just follow your bliss. Are you really following your bliss on Twitter, arguing with somebody, some troll, or somebody who's just, you know, that has that you have irreconcilable differences with? Is that following your bliss? No, it's not. Right? Is it following your bliss by, fist in the air, or this is my holding up some stick with a cardboard sign with a magic marker thing? I want this. We need this. Right? That's an exercise in futility. You're not changing the minds of anything. You're just supplying free content for used car salesmen on TV, because that's all television is. They're selling you cars and prescription drugs, right? And the cars basically fall apart, cost too much money, drain your salary, and the drugs basically, 2 years later, the lawyers are out there suing because it's got side effects or killed people. That and some kind of other potions and other wacky things that you don't need. Overpriced stuff, trying to turn you into a pack rat, materialistic things. That's why all the stuff I do is I only sell things that you actually could use. It's like, this is a really good mug. And if I would have bought this, and you're experiencing this, I just got this yesterday in the mail. And, if this wouldn't be the experience that it really is, I would tell you. I didn't want, when I saw that weather radio thing, the combo flashlight, this thing charges, by the way. I don't know if you can see that. Hold this up in the light. You see this, you see that little glisten there? That's a USB port, and there's a smaller USB there. So in an emergency case, not only is this solar panel on the top, or you could crank it, but it actually, you can, in an emergency, you could charge your cell phone. So, I buy everything. I test. I test it. I want to know. I don't want you filling your house with junk. I want something that's basically going to, get you through an emergency situation or improve your life. It's the same when I write songs. They're like my videos in the morning show. They're, it's not like frivolous, nonsensical beats or something. They're, they're to enlighten. And that's what I think, really you need to, like, forget about this imitation of life that you're living and live life, really live life. Follow your bliss. Use your five senses and, and live life to the fullest, the best you can. And, and realize that you have this human ingenuity and creativity built in. And it doesn't mean, and like I say, many of these things, these shows, there's repetitive things or constant recurring themes that come up. And that's good because that's, life is not that complicated. Humans aren't that complicated. There are only so many things, but they bear repeating. And sometimes the more we repeat them, the better we become, those ideas become clearer in our heads. For you and me. And the idea of creativity is that not everyone is going to, paint the Mona Lisa, or be some great sculptor or architect, and maybe on your own, you might not have, come up with an idea of folding a piece of paper to create a custom CD thing, which you can basically just run through your printer or take it to a copy shop with a thumb drive and say, hey, could you print this out? And then fold this and then give a mixtape, as so to speak, but it's really a CD to a friend. And, I just put this, and like I say, this isn't mine. This is just something I made with a bunch of Irish songs that I've acquired. But I just stuck this in my older computer that has a CD drive. Not every computer has a CD drive, but I bought one for this computer here, which is a newer computer, on like Amazon or somewhere. It's just a little CD drive. I can't show it to you because it's like, but it's just a USB thing that you plug into a newer computer or a laptop that doesn't have a CD drive. And the thing might have cost like, I don't know, $10, 12. It was definitely less than $20. Now everybody's getting $1,400. My advice is think very carefully about that $1,400. And, don't just go make somewhat like they call a capital expense, right? And just, go waste it all. It's like every time I get a little bit of money, I always buy something functional, something that I need, that's going to be useful over a longer haul or provide something. In my case, because I have a garden, I'm always getting something that's going to like make my spring and summer better, that I'll get use out of. And then of course I'll pay a bill. You got to pay your bills, unfortunately. All right. But I've reduced my cost of living and I advise you to do that. And, and so think that through. Get multiple things that are good for you, good for your life, will improve your life, will make you, be more complete. And of course, get some of my stuff. That would be nice. That would help keep the show going. But don't get caught up in this like in the world that they want you to be, to be just a demographic profile, to just be like cattle on a tax farm or a consumerism farm, to be they used to, in the old days, they used to refer, don't be a number. Okay. You don't hear that expression anymore. They managed to wipe that out of the public consciousness because a lot of people used to say that. Don't be a number, just a number. But that's what they're trying to do. That's what Facebook is. That's what Twitter is. Their big data is just trying to create a bunch of people that are demographic profiles. And a demographic just means they've got you defined. They know more about you than you know yourself. Maybe that your spouse, that your parents, that your loved ones, that your best friends, your BFFs, right? Because they know everything you do, everything you say, everything you text, everything call you make, everything you buy. They know everything about you. That's what big data is. And that's what Facebook and that's what Twitter is. That's what they're doing. They're just gathering information. The government has that information, but the government is now a corporatocracy because it's run by big tech. Okay. And big pharma. That's who funds all the politicians. That's who they write the bills. The politicians are just marionettes. They're puppets, and people have this cult of personality about politicians. I'm watching out for somebody who's going to comment. I might be ending this show rather abruptly in the next 10 minutes or so, or less. But the idea is that they're just marionettes. And I keep talking about this. You have to understand the corporatocracy is in control, and you have free will. You are still free. Just because there's social distancing and they're putting all these restrictions on your life at the present moment doesn't mean you don't have ingenuity and freedom inside. I'm going to end this show here because I seem to be like getting a million calls now. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hello.